The Top Left Project's a gender-based violence prevention project.
I can see it continuing in the community or a group because it's very impactful and it spreads a lot of awareness to young people everywhere because this topic of like gender-based violence is not really talked about in most places, and this group opens your mind about it and lets you see that everything's not as you perceive it to be. There's more out there that you're not really taking in and noticing that needs to be discussed with young people, because this is a very serious topic that needs to be dealt with because it's linked with a lot of other serious topics.
So we look a lot at like privilege and like, so what is privilege? How does it affect people in our communities? How does it affect ourselves? And how do we, like, after we know what our privilege is, like, how do we use that privilege to like help people who might not have it so easy in our like day-to-day lives?
I like the program a lot. I don't have any negatives on it. What I would like to see is a larger outreach to other areas in the city, or even expanding to different places across Canada as well. We like creating more top left groups.
So our target audience is like young, self-identified guys, males.
Speaking about the issues in the media, issues that we face as youth and things like that, I thought it was just really, really touching, and also just kind of broadening our spectrum of our knowledge on gender-based violence.
We also do workshops in like high schools, so we go in and we talk to high schoolers about privilege and gender-based violence and how that like affects us and our sort of day-to-day lives, and how we can use it to make things better for ourselves and for other people and our classmates. And we also have conferences to like reach out to a larger group of people. And during those conferences, we, like look at like smaller sort of like topics and like how those topics impact us in our communities. And for like the people who aren't in like Toronto communities, like how can we take that back and like implement those like solutions that we talk about in our like groups about like, or implement those topics or solutions for those topics in our communities, and how we can start to better things.
I thought that Top Left was an extremely successful project. Working with all types of people, all sorts of people, I thought that it really did make an impact on the youth and the community. Some workshops that we did, I thought, going out into the community and, working with, just various groups of amount of people, I thought that it was all like really, really helpful towards the project, and kind of just showing how we get across our message of, stopping gender-based violence and things like that.
I think Top Left kind of like helps people come into their own identities.
Through the art, I witnessed like stories upon stories that I could relate to. Like there were certain ones that said split personality, or there's ones that were showing struggles about anyone will go through, like an average person, average Joe, like me, for example. And I basically could relate to it on a spiritual note and a psychological note. And that really affected me, like it put a big impact on me. So I'd say that's one of the things.
I'm like, I don't identify as like a binary gender. So if you ask me if I'm like a guy or a girl, it's like, nah. And how like the program helps with that is like I kind of get to talk about like what being like a non-binary person is, and how that affects me and how that affects people that I interact with, and also just like teaching people who might not realize that there's like more than like one kind of gender, like that this exists, and this is how you interact with people who might not like be a he or a she.
Whatever I learned from Top Left or from the meetings, I thought that I was able to take that and use it, in my everyday life, and use it wherever I went, and I was able to speak about it confidently. So I felt that on a whole was my highlight, along with, the conferences and the workshops that we did. But yeah, that was my highlight.
It's really cool because I've picked up all of like these skills and like how to interact with like people on like in like a better way, and how to like, so outside of like if I go out into like the community and somebody says something really bad about like women, I know how to like combat that with in like a rational way because I have all this practice doing it inside the top left community.
My highlight would be Youth Day, because it was like a different experience for me to be out there, because I've never been a part of like informing people about stuff and doing something like that. So being a part of Youth Day and having like the stand and like talking to people on the street, it was very new and different to me. So I'd say I was like, yeah.
I can do this, this, and this, so I'm gonna own those things about myself and like impact people around me and like help people who might not be able to do this, this, and this. So it's kind of cool because you like work with your own like strengths to make a better place for other people.
I've learned a lot of new things that I never knew before about like everything in general about gender-based violence. I never really thought about it that much, but now when I go places and I see certain things, it comes back to me like, okay, this is gender-based violence, or that's nice. Like I don't really notice people doing that until now when I'm actually in the group and I learn more about what's going on.
The way I see it is, once we understand the topic and you're able to speak confidently and you're able to start debates and start up conversations and things like that, I feel like that's a gateway to allowing people to, you know, be curious about the topic, and that in itself will allow that to blossom into much more, and you know that'll spread throughout the community. So for me, just I guess speaking about the topic and what I've learned, like I said before, that would really, I think, impact the youth and spread the word on gender-based violence.